next year, they would pay the city, I think, within a year, is what they said?
1 to 2 years. So it would
Oh,
be
okay.
2025, 2026. But when you're talking $1 million and you're looking at other amenities, like that would be over the whole, that's the entire cost of the playground.
Do they pay us any interest while we hold that money?
No, I don't think so.
No.
And if there are things in the gray area that you're going, that's a for sure second phase, later phase. I think we had mentioned the amphitheater.
Well, it's a bargain price on that thing.
Yeah, really.
We can afford
Right?
that.
It's all relative.
I would say the playground, that third area would be my like to have, not must have. If there's a way, a lot of this budget's $850,000 for the playground. I think those two main areas are the important ones to me. That third one, if that's a significant part of that budget, would be just more of a nice to have.
This isn't kind of an off whatever, but, you know, we've got the turn lane, County Road 50, the county's requiring. No, I get it,
Yeah.
but is there any negotiating then of changing the speed limit? Here I go again.
Yeah, that's a great idea though.
But literally, I don't know if you can see, but right here, it goes from 30 to 55. Boom. And if they just moved it to there.
We'll keep working with it.
I brought it up once before, they did a whole study and said, it cost money, so I'm really sorry. And they said, oh no.
To change the speed limit?
Huh?
To change the speed limit?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
from,
you
no,
gotta
just
talk
from,
about
no,
money.
just from here to here.
But it costs
For their
money.
test, their testing, yeah. Like I said, the standing joke is I'm gonna go like this, move the sign, and it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Catch it
right
for
at
a
the
few
entrance
years
of a
like that.
park, you know?
Yeah.
Is
And
that
it's
part of the
only so
reason we
many-
need the turn lane? Is that
Huh?
is the high speed or no?
Well, it's 55 miles an hour there, but you get right over here by the hockey, it's only 30. And from here to here.
I'm just
all
wondering if
they
that
have to move
influences
it.
the need for a turn lane.
Right.
It's just ridiculous, you know, it's just somebody trying to pull out at 55, you know, with all the soccer and, you know, people are flying through, you know, going the
We'll keep
speed
having the
limit.
discussions. The ball is currently in their court. We've given them some of the
Some of
information
this.
that they asked for with regards to like a traffic study. and a
See, that's
usage-
what costs money, yeah, the traffic
Usage study.
study.
We're working
Oh.
with Stan Tech and the county to try and get that all determined
they
and
said
squared
no.
away, because it all started with the turn lane, so. But we'll keep working on it.
Okay, good. That would make me feel so much better. Before I die. Let's get that.
It's a personal cause.
So we're hearing 2 playground containers, that's a need. Zip line could be an alternate. Park building is a need. The actual shelter part of the outdoor area, maybe that's an alternate.
Gabby looks confused. You know what she's talking about?
I don't know, I'm just squinting to look at those. I can
Okay,
look
she
at
getting
them
tired.
here.
Meaning what Michelle had talked about, that other alternate.
We don't have. There's no cover at Wildflower Park in those playgrounds. It's just maybe there's enough trees that we don't need a cover there.
You
Having
want
like
trees
no
Wildflower
cover.
needs some shade.
But that's what you're talking about, is having no shade again.
So we would still have the trees, if we can we jump back to by like the playground?
So the trees would give you some shade in the.
These would be all young trees that wouldn't provide shade for
Yeah.
a few years.
The ones along the
These are
hillside though?
existing, yeah.
Yeah, there are some older trees.
Oh,
There's no
sorry,
escape.
sorry.
Yeah,
the-
those trees are.
These are existing, but these would all be newly
Yeah.
Oh,
planted.
the other over there.
There is a place to
Supposed to be
escape
there in the
the
morning.
sun for at least.
We
in those
did
trees.
explore options for having a shade structure in the middle here for parents to sit and watch, but we took it out due to cost.
So I'd be hesitant to have like no shaded structure if we don't want to do the pavilion one.
Well, you could wait on the, well, you could, no, you couldn't, because you need the bathrooms. I was gonna say you could do shade structures and then put the pavilion in the second phase, but we need the bathrooms.
I also strongly encourage that we keep the building on there because we have, Jay had mentioned this during the last meeting, it's something to consider. We have no schools located within the city. At this point, we're using only churches, and some people may not be comfortable walking into a church that has a different religion from them. We're struggling for some indoor space here.
Yeah, right.
And while it's been very helpful and we love that we have community partners who let us use their space, that's not to say we don't appreciate it, but
It's not perfect.
it makes it a lot easier when you can schedule it with your own facility, right?
I mean, we could certainly do with no landscaping in the parking lot.
Put that as an alternate.
Since, especially since we talked about maybe we take it out.
Well, yeah.
Or, you know, instead of getting 3-inch trees, get 1-inch trees. You can replace those 3 times for the same price.
Like how much difference is that though?
Well,
Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, yeah, there are lots of little ways like
It's
that.
some little things we could do, you know, I mean, I'm kind of a landscaping guy, but you can start with smaller plants, you can do a simpler design on the plants, cut the landscaping.
Volunteer planting.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Garden club.
Like our 6 members in our garden club can do that.
The only other obvious one to me is the splash pad, if that could be a later like now that it's all
No.
by
No,
itself.
What would you
No,
pick between
We
the
have
splash
funding.
We
pad
have
and the
no,
courts?
no,
You can't put that off.
I mean, it's close to over $1 million in our budget. I mean, it's worth considering.
We
We
have
have that money
$100,000
already.
that we took
It was
from the
donated.
JCs a while ago.
4
So
years
we've got to
ago.
either
Yeah.
probably use that or give it back then at that point. And I don't
Right.
think we would get another donation for
Yeah,
it.
it could make it a little smaller.
Are they upset because we're holding it?
How much was that splash
I
pad?
can't speak for them, but
Yes.
I would say that we've had that money
Yes.
for years
Okay.
now, and
At
it
least
must-
4, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
They wanna know when it's gonna be done.
I'm not I'm just,
That's why I
you're
get it.
talking to go from 11 million to 7 million. It's not like we have easy choices to make.
I'm not faulting any decisions here, I'm just, the repercussion would be we lose the $100,000 that we do have secured for that space.
Because they take it back.
Well, I would imagine they probably don't want us holding on.
Well, it's
to
important. I
current
want it to be part of the
undisclosed
park, but I don't, like, we don't have much on this list that we can prioritize. We have the building, the playground, the splash pad, pickleball courts.
I mean, if you really need to cut, I'd rather cut the courts than the splash pad, and the playground.
Sure.
And then, okay, maybe we have less people coming, can we cut the lot in half? Right, if we're really trying to save money, but I don't think we have to necessarily get down to, because we'll have $6 million in the budget, or in our parks fund, right, even, in theory.
I don't want to put a number out
We're
there
at 4
without
right
having
now,
it
we're at
squared
4 right
away.
now, but there could be some more money coming in.
Yeah, and we have
But-
other parks we want to work on too.
Yeah,
like-
I don't think we need to get down to a number, I think we prioritize, because then council's the one that's gonna say, hey, we have $4 million, we have X amount coming in, we can get bonding, or we can find other sources or whatever. So if we can prioritize, then they can make the decision on that and figure out what they need to get down to. So I would say the building's probably priority,
Yeah.
and then splash pad and playground.
What about if we waited to put the trails in until the regional trail went in? Would that help? Like how much of an expense are the
Well,
trails?
which trail? I mean, we did talk about, we could make this a alternate, but that doesn't give the accessibility to it. So we could just pave this leg of it and leave this as gravel.
I'm just wondering if that would save us any money and put that in the next phase. Not that we're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
And then that might even give us a better idea of the paths that people take to get to places. Because maybe the paths we picked aren't actually the paths that people are gonna use.
so I'd have to look into what the federal funding requires in terms of accessibility.
It's just a thought, because then we wouldn't have to worry about, we would do all of the paths at once if Three Rivers really is gonna do that within the next 2 years.
My guess is that removing a few trails wouldn't save a whole lot. We could tighten some of these up around the playground and remove this container here, and then shrink the parking lot a little more, and look at what the difference is between the cost of paving these two, because there is this extra pavement that, you know, if this is all parking, then that would definitely reduce the overall cost of pavement. So, and then it's just, yeah, making things smaller. You know, we could make the playground a little smaller, we could make the splash pad a little smaller, and tighten up the paths. This grading and stormwater is a big cost, and then the utilities to the building are a big cost.
It does feel sort of like we can either be some over budget, or we can design a park that we hate for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, something that feels not right, and will feel less right when Corcoran is twice as big as it is, which won't, next year or the year after. It just feels like this is not, this feels like a modern park. Extravagant? Well, I mean, yes, in some sense, yep, it sure is, but it's gonna be heavily used.
Right. And the better we make it, the more revenue it could potentially gain, right?
You know,
How
You
are we
know,
getting revenue though from it?
I think in the pavilion, maybe, she was saying there was some
Huh?
rental,
Pavilion rental?
yeah,
there'd be some.
I mean, not
But not, I mean,
paying
that's-
for it, but,
mm-mm.
yeah.
Kind of staff time probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Um, But I don't know, if there was a cost savings, I mean, not that we aren't gonna do it, and not that we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, but like if there's areas like paths, if we can do it, maybe we do it as the funds come in, as we get more development in. And then if we've got the money coming in from Three Rivers Park, in 2 years, we do all the paving for all the paths, wherever they end up being.
Now, to be clear, we have to put the path in, and then they reimburse us. And if we decide that now isn't the time, I would imagine that might shift the timeline a little bit on their end too. Because if they're not in this year,
And
Okay, so that's different than what we talked about earlier, kind of. Because it sounded, I thought that the money was just gonna be coming in later, like, we could do it
it's
now.
a reimbursement.
Okay,
But they have to budget for it.
yeah, that makes sense.
My priorities would be building playground, trails, and then pickleball and ball and splash pad kind of after together.
As alternates?
Not necessarily, you just asked what's the priority as far as.
Oh,
what we
okay,
make on this
so you're
list. That
just-
would be where I see and I would be of like you, I wouldn't want to trim stuff way back and make it way too small. I'd rather say we need to move this to phase 2 rather than
Right.
Yeah,
Making
we can't
something way
shrink
too
the
small.
building much
No.
more than it already is.
Uh-uh.
And I understand the splash pad we got budget for it, but just like looking at realistically, what are the things that we could move out? It's probably the pickleball area and the splash pad area.
Well, that's, if we knew how much the paving for the trails was.
Separated, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd hate to build a whole park, you don't have access to everywhere you just install.
But it's not that you don't have access, you're just gonna be going across grass versus a trail.
Yeah, it's just courts out there, right? You can walk.
You
right
can walk
somewhere
across the
and walk
grass. You don't
between
have
them
to
if
have
there's
a
games
trail.
going on.
Now, to
I
be
agree.
fair, is grass ADA compliant? So, we do have federal funds,
Okay.
and so we would have to look into if it's not ADA compliant and it's not accessible,
Mm-hmm.
does it still meet the requirements of those funds.
How much are those ones?
$500,000, and we've already started the process on getting things
Mhm.
squared away, so
Yeah.
it's
so
too
it
late
might
to
not
go
be an
back on it.
option. Okay.
So the parking lot is about 690,000 for pavement, including curb and gutter, storm, entry drive. Bituminous trails are about 40,000. Concrete, which includes the concrete surrounding the building and the concrete sidewalks around the playground, that's about 220,000. Bituminous trails between the ball fields are about 35,000. And then the playground container edge is about 28,000. So if we combined some of the sidewalk to be the container edge versus being separated from the playground, that could be a little bit of cost savings, maybe.
Or just pushing it into a
30,000.
different phase? Not eliminating it, but just,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to remove all the sidewalks around the playground, but we could
Because
bring
that was
them in.
concrete, could we do the bituminous? That
Yeah, we
sounded
could do
cheaper.
bituminous. The bituminous is cheaper, so we could do bituminous trails around the playground, but we'd still need the curb, the concrete edge to hold in the
Wood fiber.
wood fiber.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would it go, would bituminous trail go right up to the curb?
Yeah, we can do that.
For some of that, if you don't do the trail, then you have to bring in all your equipment to do it again. It really
Mhm.
boosts the cost of putting it in later, because you really have to then re-engineer it.
Shut down the playground again to
Yeah,
put it in?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's,
So is pickleball an alternate or
I think it-
priority?
Yeah, probably
Yeah,
should
I
be
think
at this
so.
point.
yeah.
I think so.
Maybe a top alternate.
It is an adult activity, kids come first.
Yeah, I would put the splash pad ahead of the playground,
Mhm.
just because we're getting that money coming in,
Yeah.
and that was the number one.
It's been the hot, that's
Yeah,
the hot thing.
for
Maybe.
a long, long
While.
time.
You would prioritize the splash pad over the playground?
That's what the community, I think, has said, but we would still
We
have
can
the
find
old
out in a
playground.
survey.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there's
Is-
communities like Tavera, I mean, there's areas that don't even have a playground in their community that are like needing of a park area.
Would the old park be torn down, or would it still be? in
The old
existence?
playground?
Yeah,
It would be taken out.
so that we wouldn't have a playground then.
It could stay till
If we
the
didn't
end,
do-
though,
Stay
a
until
playground.
phase two.
I mean,
because
it's
there's
in,
nothing up there.
yeah, it's in decent enough condition, I think, that it's, I mean, it's still safe, right?
Yeah.
From public
Yeah.
works inspections, I
Yeah.
haven't heard
Yeah.
otherwise, so,
Yeah.
I suppose it could stay. Keeping in mind, we do have the Wacker Espeseth family that was interested in helping with potential funding and then maybe even installation somehow, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd probably be minimal in the grand scheme of things, wouldn't it?
I think they were talking 50 to 125.
So not insignificant.
Well, it sounds like we can tighten up the paving, look at the parking lot, look at the trails, reduce the overall square footage of paving. Looking at reducing the overall playground size, so that could reduce some cost. The outdoor storage, I don't know if that's an alternate or needed, sounds like
I
it's
even
important
say
to
it as
staff.
phase two, to be honest.
I
Pardon?
kind of feel phase two too, the storage.
I'm good to give it up. Me and my cube closet will be
A little
just fine.
bigger cube. Slightly
Thanks for
bigger
taking
cube.
one for the team.
Yeah. The whole park.
It's for the children.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be more room in that mechanical room for your stuff.
Yeah.
That's my thought, is at some point, there is
No.
going to be some sort of storage in one of those spots. I hope. But we can make it work. The vision though, for those that have been down in the Pinwheel area, the two sheds that are more towards the south would go. Because
They're done. They're toast.
Past their
if we're
useful
gonna be
life.
updating the park, we
Yeah.
should give it
Absolutely.
the right look,
100%.
and they're just not quite meeting that. That's not to say we would get rid of the one that's probably over by Meister and Snyder. I think that one would likely stay. And then discussion would need to be had about the one by Lions Field, because that one is also in not great condition.
So I think we have direction to move forward.
Yeah.
We can
Direction as opposed to solutions.
work in, yeah, well, we can work with civil to,
Yeah.
condense and reduce the paving.
But the
To
request
tighten
of you guys. So at this point, in order to move forward with design, development, and construction documents, we would need a recommendation for approval
That's
of
me.
the schematic design with kind of the edits that we've talked about tonight, and then approval to proceed with those next 2 phases.
I will make a motion to recommend approval of the schematic design with specified edits and request approval to proceed with design, development, and construction documents.
Well said. We have a motion, any second?
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Anyone abstaining?
any abstain, thanks. Okay, you got what you needed from us.
All right, so we'll be taking this to city council on October 10th and asking for the same recommendation. And then we will plan for that public engagement at the end of October.
So the next time we sit, we'll have all public engagement and the city council feedback.
We will have public engagement started,
Okay.
because October 17th is when we'll do that open house. And then the survey doesn't close until the 27th. So you would have more of a overview on the November
Okay,
meeting.
but we'll at least know what council thinks.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Probably won't be in your packet though, because that is the week before the Parks and Trails Commission, and as talented as I am, I can't turn it out in less than 24 hours.
Okay. So we might want to try to watch that.
Yes, that would be a really good one to attend, which is why we're trying to put it on your radar.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
You just had the calendar up and I didn't look at it carefully. Are we expecting city council approval before or after the new council comes in?
Before.
So when is it, okay, tell us the dates again.
October 10th,
10th,
we are
okay.
gonna go to the city council with your guys' recommendation for approval and ask them for approval. And then the 14th through the 27th is going to be the survey online. And then the 17th is the Parks and Trails Commission meeting in October. And then 5:30 to 6:30 would be the work session.
5:30 to 6:30 is the open house.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Habitually, work session
Work
comes
session,
out of my
yeah.
mouth.
Okay.
And that's on the 10th,
17th.
17th.
The 10th is the council meeting. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
We have to say out loud to get it.
Yes.
Okay, good. I think we're good with that then.
Is there any?
I
All
think so.
right,
Are you
yes,
good?
I'm good.
Gabby's
Thank
gonna
you.
go home to her kids now.
Okay, thanks
Go
for
home.
sticking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, no new business, reports and information, planning project update.
So let's take a look through that. While I work to get my own PowerPoint up. Thank you for all of the hard work and thought on this. Councilmember Camp said it perfectly. We need you guys to help us. We don't know what the community wants. The idea is you guys do, so thank you for being the ear to the community. Questions on 9A?
Doesn't look like it. All right, keep moving. Parks, recreation, trails update.
All right. Parks, recreation and trails update. I don't remember if it was the last meeting that this switched or the one before, but instead of the rec supervisor update, this is the new update. I will give you an overview of what I'm working on, anything parks and recreation and trails related, and then I will politely hand off the torch to Councilmember Nichols afterwards so that he can kind of attest to the council side of things. Big things for me, park planning, that, as you saw tonight, has been a really big focus. Park history, I went with Commissioners Nybo and Strahler over to the Meister household. I am planning to bring a memo forward to the November meeting. The October meeting. I'm writing it up. I'm gonna hand it back to the Meister family for review just to make sure I'm not getting anything inaccurate. Likely have our wonderful commissioners look it over as well as they were there, and then bring it forward to the group so that we just know why the Meister and Snyder Field are named what they are, and kind of that background history on the park that I wouldn't know and that some of you might not be aware of. And then sharing it with the community as well. The intention is to likely put it into a newsletter, just because it is a very interesting piece of information. Bark in the park, bottom left, that's my dog. Couldn't help it, she's just so cute. It was pretty successful. I think we did a survey, and I'm planning to bring back some of that information in October as well to have a further discussion on what the community sees as needs and how the event went, and moving forward, if we continue to run that, do we need to start looking at certain types of parks to address certain types of animals? Policy updates, so still trying to hone in on some of those like park naming policies. I do promise they're on my mind, they're just not at the forefront right now. Parks and Trails Commission meeting, so preparing those packets, working with Gabby to get the information that we need for the presentation. And then Country Days was actually within the time frame, I think, which kind of came as a shock to me. So we had the beanbag tournament, it went well, we had a good turnout. I think we had 12, 13 teams. I would have to go back to look, but still pretty good turnout. It was a good event. Not that the city fully runs it, but we help participate. Something that came up more recently, motorized vehicles on trails. I received a resident inquiry about electric bicycles, golf carts, and four-wheelers on trails. This happened just this week. It caused me to look a little further into both our city code and state statute to determine what the regulations and stipulations are. Within city code, no person shall place, park, or drive upon any property, any motor-driven vehicle except upon duly specified road and parking lot areas. Basically, you can't drive a vehicle on the trails. Can't drive it outside of the parking lot. However, state statute deems that an electric assisted bicycle is not considered a motor vehicle. Thus, they are allowed by code and statute to be on the trail. There was the recent inquiry, so there was concern that these vehicles are moving quickly. I'm looking for initial feedback from the commission regarding the use of golf carts and four-wheelers on trails. The current code doesn't allow them. I want to make sure that it doesn't allow them. Is that something you want to continue? It can be a safety hazard, but we wanted to bring it through here first and get initial opinions. As far as electric bikes go, that one's a little trickier based on state statute and the fact that it does provide more of an accessible option for some people who can't pedal the whole time too. And then things like electric wheelchairs are free and clear. Those are fine. Initial thoughts?
Are we talking all trails within the whole community or within the park we're talking?
We're talking city trails.
Okay,
So
everywhere.
is that on-road trails then too, like the side of the road?
That's a good question.
Because if snowmobiles can go on that, I don't see why four-wheelers couldn't.
I think snowmobiles are supposed to be going in like the more in the
Oh,
ditches
okay.
and the easements and stuff. I can look into on road trails, does that make a difference?
Well, that'd be the only place I think you could allow them. Like even if you have a golf cart, you drive on the side of the road, you're safe, you're aware of your surroundings, but not on the paved, that doesn't make sense.
And then we do also have a recreational vehicle ordinance, which is a whole nother ballgame. Which allows you to drive more on like the roadways and stuff.
Well, it's like a side-by-side with street lighting.
Yep. That one I'm not gonna speak to so much, that's
Yeah.
not my realm, that's more PD, but we're looking at trails.
Yeah, I'm aligned pretty closely to this where it should be.
You like it
No,
as is?
The
no,
bikes.
no, like golf carts or four-wheelers
The
on the
electric
trails.
bikes, yeah, we're fine.
Electric bikes is fine.
'Kay.
If it's not considered a motor vehicle.
Perfect, then I have one more slide and then I will hand it off to Counselor Nichols. Council items, I did not switch out the pictures, so sorry.
That's because your dog's
Yeah,
cute.
wait.
She's just so cute, I was like, we had resolution 2024-96 recognizing the 2024 Night to Unite events and donations. I already touched on that at the previous meeting, it went great. Woohoo. And then a cropland update regarding a Hennepin County grant. There were some croplands that we were previously renting out, and it became to be a really difficult process, and so now we're looking at turning that into a different, I'm gonna let Councilmember Nichols speak to that. I'm getting
Sounds
too
good.
far in the weeds.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, there were a variety of choices available. I think there were 3 or 4 different programs that we could apply to with different levels of county support and funding to convert it into various kinds of natural space. So there was one that was more of a prototype. They hadn't done many of these projects yet, but it could be converted into some kind of a forest. I don't think that's the one we ended up going with. It was more of a short-term commitment, at least in the interim, and giving staff direction to follow up with the county to figure out what some next steps would look like. I don't think we've firmly committed yet, but the trajectory that we're on would be to have it planted as sort of open green space, but with non-tree type plantings. And more will come from that as staff explores further with the county, from what I understand.
So,
I had a few other items beyond that I thought might be of interest to folks. We have been talking a fair bit about the budget and the levy amount over the last couple of meetings and had a work session on that topic. We're trying to dial things into the point where we can keep the tax rate as even to current state as possible. There might, I think at the last review, there was still a potential for a small increase that we still need to hammer out. We've been getting very delayed answers from the county in terms of what the levy amount and the tax base are at the current tax rate. And so it's hard to make final determinations without that data, and we're hoping to get that in the near future. We also approved phase 1 of the Hope development, which is essentially a medium-sized single-family development. That will add, I think, a couple $100,000 in park dedication funds over the next half a year or so. And then we talked about the streetlight policy and how those will be likely folded into general fund payment rather than having individual neighborhoods pay them out based on location. And we also talked about doing the same thing with dust control for non-paved roads, treating them both as city amenities that the general fund should be responsible for, and staff is working through creating a policy to document that. Any specific items there anybody would like to discuss further, or questions that you have? I'm here for you.
I have a question. So, I'm sorry, you said
Please.
on the dust control, that'll be general fund going forward? Or you're looking at that?
It has been for the last couple of years. We've made that change, I want to say, in like 2021.
Okay.
But it was done informally just by changing the budget to include funding to cover it. But it wasn't set in place as policy. So the thought was, let's make that a policy and at the same time talk about streetlights in the same form, as road maintenance is a general city responsibility that should be paid for out of the general fund.
And the lighting, you feel the same on?
That was what we discussed, yeah. And to me, that does make sense. It's there mostly for public safety purposes. My big push on street lighting is I feel because the electric utility puts it in for free and then charges for power, there's a big incentive for us to just go with the path of least resistance and allow them to do that for us. And then we end up paying $17 per light per month for the life of that street. I feel like there's probably lower cost options that might be a little more work that we could achieve through changes to design standards. And maybe we require, for example, solar lights to be installed in certain parts of the city for certain kinds of lighting that don't have ongoing costs. But we need to wrestle through that and see if there really is a potential for savings.
Thank you.
Okay. That's everything for that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jeremy.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jeremy. All right,
Thank you. Great discussion today.
Yeah, thanks. Subcommittee Garden Club report?
Go ahead.
Unless you have something.
No, I don't.
So I'm working with the garden club to get something in the newsletter in hopes to get more people to join the garden club.
There you go.
So I chatted with Susan Nelson and Sharon Meister, if you recall Sharon. And I sent them the mock-up of the quick article. They threw it around the garden club, let people give their feedback, and no one had any big feedback except for a typo I made, big surprise. They sent it back and I sent it to our communications person, so it should be going in there.
And Susan Nelson's has taken on a lot of the work on the garden club. And she's just a real plant expert and a great person. And so that's good. So, yeah.
Excellent. Park Dedication Fund, any questions?
Still not updated. We're still missing finance people. We should be in a better place. I'm hoping after October 1st, I think is the day that I have a meeting with Jay and Natalie to talk a little further and figure out what the timeline is on getting this updated, because at this point it's just taking a little longer than I anticipated. So I'd like to get it updated for folks. Get you some accurate information.
Good, okay. No other business announcements, so if there's no other discussion, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Anyone second it?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? And those who abstain?
That'd be Jessica.
All right, good meeting.